small talk is this storm. Got a little storm coming up. This storm reminds me of we got caught out on in college at Highway 7 Beach, and a tornado was coming right down DeGray. You could see the funnel. It was a water spout, and then it hit land. It was water spout. I think it went over Cattle Bend, tore up a bunch of stuff over there. And instead of fleeing to protect ourselves, we went all the way out on the peninsula out there to watch it even closer.
Because that's exactly what you do, right? You run to the storm.
The rednecks.
Yeah. Well, see, in Arkansas, it's a spectacle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, we got common sense, but we got enough sense to stay far enough away from it to where we're not affected.
Well, famous last words were, "Hey, it's moving the other way."
And here comes the car. Oh, Glory Stories, episode 3. We've been waiting on this for quite some time, and now we're bringing it to you. I'm here today with Larry Perrin, NSR. NSR means the National Scouting Report. Larry, how we doing?
Doing great. Glad to be here.
The storm, I've been here for about a day or so now, and the weather's kind of, making things a little rough, but I think we'll persevere and make it through.
Yes, it's definitely challenging, but I will take 81 degrees over 104 any day.
Hey, I told you a couple of days ago it was raining in Arkansas, which I guess somebody repented, Pharaoh let the Israelites go, and all of a sudden things are kind of getting back to normal.
Right.
So. But yeah, episode 3, a little bit of housekeeping stuff real quick before we get started. I just want to make mention of that this channel moving forward is going to predominantly consist of what you see here today. Glory Stories is going to be the primary focus from here on out. Going to wrap up this little 30-day fitness challenge I've been doing, but once that gets out of the way, I'll still be posting my workouts on Instagram, but just the videos and stuff kind of, going along with it, I'm going to cut that out. This is going to be the focus moving forward. So with that being said, talking to you.
Yes, sir.
Growing up, where you grew up in the Tuscaloosa area of Alabama around 4th, so 10 years old, right?
Yes, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade.
Okay. Now, this area being dominated by Alabama football.
Well, they say there's another team in the state too, but we won't go there.
Yeah, okay. How ironic. They're also Tigers we don't talk about. The football culture in this area of Alabama, growing up, can you talk about how this culture translated to your development as an athlete later on down the road?
Absolutely. Having grown up in Tuscaloosa, or at least 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade, it was a very impressionable time in my life. It's where the Crimson Tide got in my blood. It was where I fell in love with the game of football. Alabama was really good then. We were winning national championships. There was one in '72 where Auburn punted. We punted and they blocked a couple of punts. We'll get past that. But it was a very impressionable time in my life. And I played on the team, Taylorville-Duncanville Skyland football team in the Tuscaloosa Parks and Rec League. That was the only undefeated team I ever played for. And we were undefeated. We were the champions of the league. It was a top to bottom. It was one of the best, most solid rosters that I've ever played with, as far as guys that knew their job, even at the rec league level. This was just a phenomenal football team, and it really started a fire in me to want to be, the best I could be at this game that I love.
And so from there, y'all moved back to Arkansas, correct?
We had a little stint in Memphis. Played some more Pee Wee ball in Memphis in 5th and 6th grade. Then we moved to Arkansas when I started the summer before my 7th grade season. And I started playing football at East Junior High School in 7th grade. And then, went to high school at Blytheville High School, played my high school ball there. Great experience. Played for two great coaches, Coach Robert Schock in junior high, just a great mentor in my life, and Carl Owens, my high school coach. I loved him a bunch. Had some tremendous guys on staff uh, that really molded me. Travis Cantrell, Bill Riley, some of these guys that just set the tone for what I was. They instilled in me a desire to play at the next level. Travis Cantrell was the guy in 10th grade that told me, "Hey, if you keep working, you're going to have a chance." And I didn't know what the chance he was talking about until it started to happen. So it was pretty cool, man. I just always loved this game, and I loved everything about it and what it does for you. And it's just a great game.
So you for the most part play wide receiver, but just you all. I mean, you were jack of all trades. You wide receiver, special teams. You punted, kickoff, return kicks as well. Um, how hard was this on your body at a young age? I mean, you see kids doing it all the time, but I mean, like, was this? Was
Well, I did have one incident in 7th grade, and I was playing up on an 8th grade team, and I was returning the kickoff, and ran the kickoff back and got in the pile, and a guy rolled on my knee and tore my knee up, and I had to have some work done on that. And but I had broken leg in college, separated shoulder, collarbone, that sort of stuff. But man, I'm gonna tell you, I'm blessed because I don't have any dealings today that bother me from any of these injuries.
so it is. It, it's pretty apparent coming up from where you started in Tuscaloosa around 4th grade to your time moving to Blytheville. It's pretty apparent that you had this. What comes to mind when I think what I'm thinking of. It's like a culture of excellence, but work ethic is extremely strong in you. Where did all this come from?
Well, I had a great role model, my dad, Larry Senior, who was a tremendous athlete, all-state football player at West Memphis High School, played at Jonesboro High School as well. Dad worked every single day of his life, and he learned it from his dad, my grandfather, and he worked every single day of his life. He worked on oil and gas pipelines, and all I ever remember him doing besides taking me fishing or hunting was working. And same thing with Dad. When I hurt my knee in 8th grade, the one that got me over the hump as far as my therapy was my dad uh, helping me get through that. And man, it was a huge confidence boost. A lot of kids go through injuries early in their careers and don't really get through it, don't really regain the confidence. But my dad helped me come out of that injury better than I was when I went into it.
I'm pretty sure I can hear him now. There's a difference between being injured and having some pain. Of course, you were injured in the beginning of it, but afterwards, once things kind of heal up, there is some pain that probably came along with it afterwards. I can hear him now saying that's what you have to realize to get through this.
Well, it makes you appreciate the effort you put in and the pain that you experience. Um, and yeah, it was just little things. You've seen the commercials, maybe not your generation, but where the dad gives a kid a lifesaver after a ball game. Kid had a bad ball game. My dad was never that guy. My dad was the guy that was going to coach me up on what I did wrong, tell me it's okay, and he loved me, and I knew he loved me. But I was going to get my breakdown of the game after it was over with, and it just made me better, man. It just pushed me. It made me better, and I loved. There's nothing like getting support from your parents. I'm at University of Central Oklahoma, my freshman year, and we walk out of the tunnel onto the field there in Edmond, and I look up in the stands. I see my parents, and man, they didn't have to drive 8-9 hours to go to Oklahoma City from Blytheville to watch me play ball, but they did, and he didn't miss many of my college games.
Well, I can tell you from experience. I remember the first time I got to dress out in college. I look up in the middle of the stands there and I see y'all, and it's just it brings the experience full circle for everybody, and that's I mean, and all honesty too. I mean, when if you have doubts, which I can't tell you how many times going into a game I might have had some doubts, but the reassurance of having that support brings you, it kind of makes those doubts go away.
Yeah.
And it brings you back down to what you're doing, and that's your job for your team. And so, yeah, I second that. It's pretty big from a, making you comfortable and play better and all that. But we don't want to jump ahead too far because I got a couple of things I want to hit on before we talk about later on in college. It's 1981, the spring of 1981. You've signed with Henderson State. Can you talk about the preparation physically that you went through going into that freshman year?
We'll start right after the signing. First Wednesday in February, I signed with Henderson State. It came down to Harding, Henderson State, Arkansas Tech. Those were my three decisions. And I chose Henderson State for a very valid reason. So me and my quarterback, Barry Hay, would throw every day after school. My football season was over. I wasn't running track my senior years because I already signed. I didn't want to get injured or anything. I normally ran track and high jump, long jump, and done the sprints and stuff. But I didn't run it my senior year. And me and Barry, who is head and shoulders the best quarterback I've ever had at any level, threw every day. Because I didn't know at the time. I knew I got recruited. I knew I signed a scholarship. Didn't really know where I was going to land on my feet in college. So through with Barry every day. They sent me, the playbook. They sent me the route tree. They sent me my workout regimen and all that. And so that's kind of what we worked on. As when school got out, the very first thing I did every year after school got out, the first 2 weeks, is I pitched bales of hay for 2 weeks. And so my uncle had a farm in north central Arkansas at Ozarks, and we'd go up there and bale hay, get the barns full of hay. And if you ever want to rip your body down to basics, sweat it out of you, go out there and do that. Because and first of all, we didn't eat too much at his house because you didn't know what we were cooking, if we even had any food. So eating a meal was a rarity, but we worked our tails off, in that hot Arkansas heat. And that got me in shape. I came back. I had a job at the water company in Blytheville. It was, and I worked at the water company with several guys that played college ball. Scott Mosley was a quarterback at Southeast Missouri State. Gary Holmes was a defensive back at Arkansas State. Bruce Hay was a wide receiver at the University of Arkansas. And, these were all my heroes, man, growing up. And now I was working out with them in the summer. We were running routes and doing all that sort of stuff, lifting, doing conditioning, punting, kicking, doing that. Then I found out that they were going to bring me as a DB. So, all the conditioning I just did since February, I had to start doing half of it backwards, and getting used to that motion. So, but man, I tell you, it was really good to learn from guys that had experienced it and were in it, and they helped me a bunch. Those guys did, man. They're great friends still to this day.
There's a figure that exists in the Henderson State lore. His name is Coach Sporty Carpenter, one of the winningest coaches in all of athletics at Henderson State. More than just a coach too, mentor in all meanings of the word. Let's talk about Sporty a little bit. What about him as an incoming freshman, or not just as an incoming freshman, but what about him throughout the recruiting process appealed to you as a coach?
Well, it's a long story. He started recruiting me in my 11th grade. And Sporty had such a unique twist to how he communicated with me and what he did that was really different than anybody else. And he's shown an interest in me that was at a level that was totally different than anybody else. I've got 2 letters up on my wall here, one from Arkansas and one from Alabama, saying, hey, we love you, but we don't love you as much as you love us. You can come walk on here, and you can play football, but be a preferred walk on. And nobody wanted to play for Alabama worse than I did. Nobody in the whole wide world, nobody wanted it worse than I did. But like I said, unfortunately, they didn't love me as much as I loved them. So my dad, being the dad that he was, he said, hey, bud, if you don't play football in college on scholarship, you're going in the military. Wasn't a great time to go in the military in the early 80s. A lot of stuff going on in the Middle East. Just wasn't a really prime time to join up. So I had to consider the Division II offers at that time.
But you didn't take what you could get, though.
Right.
So
yeah. Well, here's the deal with Coach Carpenter. Very simple. 11th grade year, after every single game on Monday, I would get a letter in the mail, and it wouldn't be a handwritten letter. It would be clippings of the game that I played in the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. And it would be red pen circled on, if I scored some touchdowns or if I returned a kick for a touchdown or had a field goal or punted for 45-yard average, something like that. And if I had a game where I didn't make the highlights, he would say, did you play? But he did this for my junior and senior year after every game. And I thought it was pretty cool. So when I was making that decision and I decided I didn't want to take the PWOs, I had offers from all the NAI, they're now D2 schools in the state, had offers from some D1s way off that I didn't want to go to. So I took that NAI program, little old school, Henderson State University in Arkadelphia, Arkansas, fell in love with it, found my fit, and, to play for Coach Carpenter was indeed an honor. Mm-hmm. I think Scott Maxfield passed him in the rankings on all-time winningest coach, but Coach Carpenter, he won tons of games on the field, but what he did for us as young men was amazing, and he helped everybody that he brought to the program, whether you were a coach, a player, a manager, it didn't matter, and he was there to help you.
Now, we're in the early 80s, okay? If you were a Division I program, you had the funds to afford, whatever facilities you needed to prepare your athletes. Mm-hmm. NAI, that wasn't really the case back then. Now, this being kind of a hybrid channel for stories, but also kind of bringing a fitness element into it, meeting in the middle. Let's talk about Coach Carpenter's approach to strength and conditioning. What was that like?
Well, Coach Carpenter, if a GA was on his staff, that GA got the opportunity to really grow, mm-hmm. because Coach Carpenter let the GAs and the young assistants plan, lay out, and manage the weight program. Coach Carpenter handled the mat drills, the agilities, all that sort of stuff that we did on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Monday, Wednesday, Fridays when we lifted, though, that was your GAs, that was your younger coaches that came in and installed the weight program. And I was blessed to being exposed, to a guy my summer between my freshman and sophomore year, or spring between my freshman and sophomore year, they brought in a cat named Charlie Strong.
Just some guy off the street,
Well, Charlie Strong, for those that don't know, he played football at University of Central Arkansas. He was All-American there in football and track. He came to us as a graduate assistant, and that was just that was just a launching pad for being the head coach at South Florida, at Texas. He was defense coordinator, won a national championship at Florida. He coached in the pros for several years. He's been on Alabama's staff as a defensive advisor. So he's a pretty big name in the sports world. And what was great about Charlie is he would jump under there with us. he would rack them. He would get under there and do his reps with us, and he would challenge us in the weight room. I had a great weight background at Blytheville High School because we had a very good weight program at Blytheville High School. We were stout. But when we got into college, we weren't really exposed. My high school program was probably a little bit more advanced than my college program when I first got there, my freshman year. But that spring freshman year, sophomore, between the summer, boy, it took a tremendous change. And not only did Coach Strong teach us how to lift properly and develop our bodies, position specific movements, he also taught us how to run. And I was up at 5 a.m. with Kenny Fells, Greg Williams, Drew Wilkins, me. They moved me to wide receiver or to slot, and he brought us all in, and we ran hills. Mm-hmm. We did his hill regiment, and let me tell you, it was not easy, but it was what made me the best me I could be. That his regiment in the weight room, his regiment on the hills, unbelievable.
When in my time at the great Henderson State, when we would get up for 5 a.m. workouts, Smelser, who he's our strength coach at the time, he part of the warm up, we'd get there and we'd go straight out to the practice field, and we would start out at the bottom of the hill, and he would say, run up, get to the top, and when we got to the top, he would say, roll down. And so when you got guys running up when you still got cats rolling down, and it was a train wreck. But you talk about just a mind, just to just get you going before a workout, that'll do it. But from a mental toughness aspect too, I mean that heel, no matter how you use it, is going to get you right one way or another.
It was great. Our practice field ran north and south. Y'all's run east and west. There's two of them there now, but ours ran north and south. So we would get on the east sideline, run across the field 46.25 yards, and then hit that incline and go up and touch the fence. You didn't slow down coming down. You touched the fence like you were running a relay. You hit it and you sprinted down the hill to the starting point again. And I'm going to tell you, it built muscles in my body that I didn't know existed.
From a stability standpoint, yeah, absolutely. That is ridiculous. But that part of the practice facility has just helped out so many athletes. And
it's gotten some of them's attention too.
Oh, it's a great lesson teacher. Absolutely. I mean, I can hear, Carrie Baker, get on the hill, but yeah, we would get told by Coach Baker sometimes, like if Scout was, we would get too good of a look sometimes, like he was wanting us to be really specific on something, and we would get too good of a look. We got put on the hill a couple of times for that. But hey, I take pride in that, like that's kind of a badge of honor, I guess. I had to run hills for doing something right. So, so we're getting towards the end of your athletic career. It's 1984. Okay, you didn't redshirt. You played all 4 years. 1984 gets here. Your time as an athlete at the collegiate level is over.
Yes.
You had a couple injuries in college. Mm-hmm. Some that might have been worse than others. But with these injuries and just with these years of playing hard football and just being a pretty dedicated athlete, did you want to play at the next level? Was there any desire to do that?
Yeah, there was. I broke my leg at Monticello my junior year against Monticello in this week 7 game. I've had some bad experiences at Monticello, and that was the worst one. Especially when you have guys from your hometown hollering at you on the sideline, giggling while you're laying on the field with a bone sticking out of your leg.
It's all in good sportsmanship.
Yeah, there ain't no evil like a doggone boll weevil.
I heard that.
But so my senior year, I didn't get to play. I had to sit out. I couldn't recover from the injury. I couldn't get through it. It was bad. And I didn't take my 5th year. I had another year, and I didn't take my 5th year. And I got the opportunity to. We had the USFL back then, the original USFL. We had a team in Memphis, the Showboats, and I got to work out and practice with them. You did sign a little free agent deal. It wasn't worth nothing. If they wrote you a check, you had to run to the bank before they got there because it would bounce. And I've got a $22 after taxes check in here that I've never cashed.
You should frame it.
But the league folded, and the USFL league folded, and I had some opportunities to go to Canada and try out with a couple of teams. I had a buddy of mine that I played with, Tony Johns, who was playing in Canada for the Toronto Argonauts. I could have gone up there, had a close. One of the guys that recruited me in high school was now a general manager up there in Canada, and I should have gone up there and tried out for him. But I just didn't. I was done. I didn't want to play in that cold weather. I watched Canadian Football League on TV. It just wasn't for me. And, thought, well, I'm 22, 23 years old. I got to start life.
So your career's done, and you transition into trying to find your fit in the work world. You look on your wall back here. You got top honors for selling cars. You have a top honor for working in the steel industry, and then you have some prizes and plaques here for fishing, and then a couple of your degrees here as well. When it came to trying to decide what the best fit was for you as a career, why did you land on the steel industry? What about that led you to being in that industry for almost 20 years?
Well, my first job out of college was working for a fishing tackle manufacturer, Hillbilly Lures. Doug Garrett, good friend of mine, gave me a job. I was his sales rep, and I worked there for a couple of years. Then I got into the automobile industry. That's how I got back to Blytheville, Arkansas, is the Carlocks, who were great family friends of mine. They opened a new dealership, a bigger dealership in a new facility. They brought me in there. But I got an opportunity to go to steel business because I knew some people out there. And what the steel industry did for me, it was hard work, man. It was brutal. And the hours were crazy. You were on call all the time, and at that age, it didn't bother me a bit. I just worked out all the time. But what was cool about the steel business is what they used to hire. One of the criteria that they used to hire people with was, were they former college athletes? And from a management standpoint, if I've got college athletes and I can motivate them to do certain things, you can motivate them to hype them up. They understand what it's like to have goals and be driven towards those goals and try to achieve those goals as a team. Mm-hmm. And they also understand, man, when you need them in the fourth quarter, they're going to be there. And they got to dig down and find something that the regular public doesn't know about that they've had to find on the football field. So we had a lot of former athletes that were working there with us. Gary Holmes, who I mentioned earlier, Jerry Tribble, who played at Southern Arkansas, was from Blytheville. Just Trey Sharon, just a ton of guys that played ball with at the collegiate level that worked there. And the great part about Nucor is it gave me, the work part of it became a challenge to me, a physical challenge to me.
Like it fed that competitive.
It fed them competitive juices. I was always prided myself on getting my work done, and my area was in good shape, and that sort of thing. Then when I got to be in a supervisor role, you got to be able to tell people, hey, man, I'm going to ask you to do things that I can't do myself. So if I tell you to go do something, understand I can do it, and I can do it better than you, and I can do it faster than you and more efficient than you, and I can do it for a longer period of time than you can. And that was always my goal, was to outwork all those younger kids that were coming in. Mm-hmm. And that was up till the day I left. When I left, I was 50 years old, 51 years old. And so just a great experience. It served a lot of purposes in our lives. It helped you guys out with some financial aid and stuff. And when y'all went to college, paid very well. It got us through your school year. So it just served its purpose.
Well, it goes back to, we talked about it at the beginning, you just have this attitude and mentality of excellence about you, and this is where your work ethic fits in as well. Grandpa and installing that in you in such a young age. I mean, that right there is a prime example of why it is important to establish that at a young age, because it's going to serve you your entire life,
right?
And you're going to benefit from it. Now, going to kind of shift a little bit towards extracurriculars now. You've always been a bit of an outdoorsman, ever since I've known you. Whether it be fishing, hunting, can you go a little in depth on how this in and of itself is almost like a workout regimen?
Absolutely. Especially with fishing. Again, like I said, when I got out of college, my first job was working for Hillbilly Lures. Well, that got me into the fishing tournament scene, and that fed the competitive juices in me as well, because I knew if I went out and practiced harder and stayed on the water longer than everybody else and stayed in better physical shape, I could withstand the heat. I could withstand the adverse conditions. I could make decisions on the fly where other people would just let it get to them and beat them down. And and I work with high school anglers still to this day, and I tell people all the time, these kids are athletes. Don't let them fool you. Go get in a boat with them on the Coosa River this afternoon, with it being 104, and stay in the boat with them for 8 hours while they're casting plugs that long, and they're shooting them out there to 150 yards and cranking them in, burning them in, while you're laying down in the back seat back there nursing Gatorades.
Oh man! Now you're I would have been nursing Gatorades. I was not the best fisherman, probably just because I was impatient. But yeah, that'd be me. Did any of your injuries from your athletic career kind of did they phase you any as an outdoorsman, or especially as a fisherman? Because I mean, you're talking about knee injuries and leg injuries and shoulder injuries. When you're casting a pole, you're using every bit of that stuff. So, have you had any effects later in life?
Again, I've been blessed with a body that's held up. When the weather changes and stuff, I do get some twinges and stuff like that, but I don't have any pain or issues or anything that slows me down from any prior injuries. And it doesn't do it in my workouts. It doesn't do it in my activities. And I guess the reason why is I try to keep my body in pretty good shape.
Mm-hmm. Well, just being out there and just conditioning yourself to endure 104-degree heat in and of itself. I mean, from a mental aspect, it doesn't get much tougher than that.
Well, and you're exactly right. It is all mental. Mm-hmm. Hopefully we'll talk about my workout regimen, but I have to do some things mentally to get ready for it at 62 years old.
Mm-hmm. It's like you're looking at my notes right now or something. Other than fishing, walk us through what a portion of your exercise regimen looks like nowadays.
Okay. I'm not fixing to play any football games. I'm not going to win any bodybuilding contest. I'm not running any 5Ks. I'm not in the competitive world when it comes to my exercise routines. My goal in exercise is simple. It's to stay above ground as long as I can. And so really what I do is I combine a good diet and with a walking regimen that is, again, once I put my earbuds in, then those old competitive juices start kicking in, and I start looking at times. Mm-hmm. But I want to walk 5 miles in an hour.
Oh, What's that pace looking like?
You're at 12-minute miles, and so which is basically running.
Well, for me it is because my stride's half of yours. But yeah, golly. So, and how many days a week are you? Now, this isn't an everyday thing, right? I mean, you're not.
It is if I have time, but not unfortunately, but with my job, sometimes I work in the evenings when I'm visiting with families and stuff. So sometimes it cuts into it, and I take snippets where I can.
Mm-hmm.
It may not be 1 hour continuous. I may go walk for 30 minutes and come back and do it again later.
Okay.
And finish it up. But if I can get an hour out there, especially if I've got an hour and a half cushion, mm-hmm. where I can put the earbuds in and I can crank it up and I can get after it, those are the days I love. And those hour and a half cushions may come at 12 noon in 105 degrees. But that is where you have to be mentally tough and overcome that. I would rather walk when it's 105 than I would when it's 25.
I'm the other way around. I'd rather walk in the cold, bundle up.
Yeah.
But so you're 62. 62. Okay. So being 62, this type of exercise routine, I mean, even though because you're still built pretty stout. That you're built like a house. I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon either. But you, even though that might be the case, this low impact style of exercise, but you're still pushing the envelope as hard as you are. That's so beneficial for somebody in your state of life or in your place in life right now.
Absolutely, and I've done these videos on stuff on. I tell people all the time, just set little goals you can reach and build up to this. I didn't start 5 miles a day. I didn't. I started a mile. Mm-hmm. And then I did a couple of days of a mile. Then I would add 2 miles. Then, 3 and 4 and 5. We lived out at the Coosa River. I would go up and down a hill of a driveway 10 times. I started out doing it once and nearly fainting. And then I got to where I could do it 10 times and it not faze me. All of this was brought on y'all by COVID with me.
Okay. Well, I put a lot of that in the back of my mind. I remember just all of that now that you say it. Mm-hmm. But, it was an eye-opener for a lot of us. Whether it be just from a life management standpoint or a health priority standpoint. Boy, I forgot about that.
Well, and what it made me do is it made me start looking at my health better. And I do the annual physicals now. I do listen to my doctor a little bit more than I used to. I tend to know more than most doctors know, in my opinion. So I will argue with them occasionally. But what made COVID so bad for me is I was very anemic. And I didn't have any hardly vitamin D in my system. So I was susceptible to any infection, and it would affect me worse than a lot of people. I couldn't fight it off. That's why it put me in the hospital almost 2 times. And the only reason they didn't admit me is they didn't have a bed. So, I got mad the second time I went, and they didn't admit me. Of course, I'm glad they didn't. They would have intubated me, and that would have been a problem. So I come back that night, and I said, I'm going to get up and I'm going to walk to that table. Then I'm going to walk to that next thing, and I'm going to walk to that.
While you're still feeling and having all the effects.
Absolutely. At midnight or 2 o'clock in the morning when nobody else is up, I'm out there walking.
See, I'm not the only one that's crazy enough to be up at 1 o'clock in the morning doing these workouts. Okay, y'all take lessons from this right now. Okay, I'm not the only one.
I was scared I was going to die if I went to sleep, so that's why I stayed awake.
It's life or death. It's always life or death. Okay, so.
But what COVID did is it told me to listen to my body. Mm-hmm. When I first started feeling better that summer, May of 2023, I had long COVID from October 20 to May of 2023. I kept every month having recurring COVID symptoms. So we finally got myself lined out internally. I started getting in shape, and I did start to run. But that high impact, you talked about my body, it affected my feet. It affected my ankles, my knees a little bit that I wasn't used to. And, I'm scared to death of getting plantar fasciitis or something like that that's going to just kill all of my workout. So I backed it down to just walking, speed walking. And, I've done really good. If I combine it with a diet, it does really good if I combine it with the right diet. I've tried different diets. I tried keto a couple of times. The problem with keto is it's very effective if you want to lose weight fast. If you throw working out on top of that, then your body is starving for foods to energize.
Well, you don't have any carbohydrates. I mean,
right.
It's just, you're sucking the life out of yourself.
So what happens is you'll keto, lose the weight, you'll exercise on top of that. You'll reach a point where if you miss one day, you're eating a box of Pop-Tarts at 2 o'clock in the morning and it's over. So my weight would yo-yo. And I finally have been on a couple months. It's the greatest way I think of taking care of my body. And it's just eating clean. No low carbs, no pastas, no breads, no sugars, lots of fruit. I drink a smoothie once or twice a day, and then I exercise along with it. And now I've burned some of the fat off my body, but I've got that reserve energy with those carbs and stuff, the little bit of carbs that I do take in where I can get over the hump a little bit. So I may not, and I preface this, I don't worry about a scale. I'm not wanting to step on a scale and see a number. All I'm concerned about is how many belt loops or how many holes in my belt that I can do.
Well, we talked about when James Stone was on here, we talked about the dangers of the scale.
Yeah.
And how a lot of people kind of live and die by it when really it's more about how you feel.
Exactly.
And if you can see, because your body's going to adjust based off the stimulus that you put on it, and your body composition is going to adjust as well.
Right.
And so if that's happening, like in the waist area and all, like you talk about, that's a good indicator that something's working.
Yeah.
So the scale, it's a good way to track progress, but it's not the best way. And there's more than one way to skin a cat too.
Yeah.
But we're wrapping things up here. This being glory stories, I love the aspect of just remarkable people telling remarkable stories. In your time as an athlete, I want to hear one of your favorite stories. You told some good ones, and you've recollected quite a bit. But I want to hear one of your favorite stories from one of your favorite periods during your athletic career.
It may not be one of my favorite periods of my athletic career, but it was definitely one of the most interesting. Again, back to my freshman year as a defensive back on the 2 deep, but I also handled all the kickoffs. So I kicked off, and we had a bunch of touchbacks, and so it worked out good. It was a way to get me on the field as a freshman. We played Southern Arkansas week 7. We beat Southern Arkansas University at home to take over the number 1 spot in the nation. So we were working into game week against University of Arkansas, Monticello, that doggone Monticello again. And I knew it was going to be a bad day. It just started out bad, man. I went deer hunting before we had to check in. We had to be on the bus at 2 o'clock. The game was at 6 o'clock that night. So I went hunting that morning in Arkadelphia, Arkansas. You go across the river and hunt on the Washita River. And I thought, man, I'll be back plenty of time. Won't have to be pressed for time. Just be a smooth day. Well, my car got stuck over there in the mud, and it took me a long time to get unstuck and get back to the dorm. I got back with barely enough time to survive. Okay, so I get on the bus, and we're driving to Monticello, and I lean back in the seat on the bus, and I get stung by a wasp. Yeah. So, strike two. As we get closer and closer to Monticello, I start feeling sick. And sore throat, bad sore throat, feeling like I'm running fever. And, I just feel terrible. But I am not letting anybody know. I'm not letting Coach Carpenter know, not letting any of the assistants know. Opening kickoff, Monticello notoriously would let the grass grow up about 6 inches for us because it slowed us down. We were a speed team, so they wanted to slow us down. Well, I had the football on the tee on opening kickoff, and I couldn't even see where my foot was supposed to hit because the ball was under 5 inches of grass. So I approached the kick, and I stubbed my toe. I drug my foot, and I hit a chili dipper out there about 15 yards. And they recovered it, and it was on a short field. They went down and scored, and it just started a avalanche of bad play. Mm-hmm. We lose the game. Get in the locker room, get back on the bus. I'm sick as a dog, running fever, shivering. And they call my dad. My dad meets me in Arkadelphia and takes me to the doctor. I got strep throat. So we play University of Central Arkansas the next week. And, remember, we went from 7-0 to 7-1. UCA thumps us. Nikita Robertson, all them guys from UCA, they drill us. So we've lost 2 in a row. Last game of season, Battle Ravine. And we didn't show up. We played terrible. And it was a bad night. So we lost 3 in a row, and we lost to that team across the street. And a reporter asked Coach Carpenter, what's going on with this season? What happened to this season? And Coach Carpenter said, well, lightning struck the outhouse, except he didn't say outhouse, and we were in it.
Oh, where's it at?
Right there, that second book.
That's right here?
Yeah.
There's a book.
Yep. Coach Baker wrote that book, and it's got a lot of great stories in there from guys prior to my era, after my era, stories about Coach Carpenter. And, man, that guy, his influence on me as a man, all the coaching staff, but especially Coach Carpenter as a man, something I can never repay him. And I remember the day that we buried him, and it was a tough day. Great man, great coach, great representative of Henderson State University and collegiate athletics in general in the state of Arkansas.
It's the quote from The Sandlot: "Heroes get remembered, legends never die."
Yeah.
In my time at Henderson State, this is 20, almost 30 years later after, your time there had ended. I'm still hearing stories about Sporty Carpenter, and I played for a great coach in Scott Maxfield, but the framework for how it's done in a tough place that makes tough people tougher, like Henderson State, the foundation was laid through Sporty Carpenter.
Right.
So, well, Larry, I think we accomplished what we set out to do today. I appreciate you coming on here. I know it's been kind of tough with the weather and everything, but again, your mental toughness allowed you to push through, and I appreciate that. For everybody watching, just again want to touch you guys up. This is episode 3 of Glory Stories. Episode 4 will be coming in the near future, and again, this channel is then now transitioning primarily to things like this. So there won't be as much content being uploaded, but what is uploaded will be very similar to this kind of format. So appreciate you guys watching. And Larry, again, thank you.
Appreciate it. We'll come back anytime.
Yeah, part 2 is always on the table, So yeah, we'll catch you guys later. Thanks for watching.